Flosstube. My name is Becca, and I am SamBrie Stitches here on Flosstube and Instagram. I am super excited today because this is another episode of Interview with a Flosstuber, and I have two very special guests that I'm so excited to interview. As you can see, Pam and Steph from Just Keep Stitching. They probably don't need an introduction, but I'm going to do one anyways. Their channel, if you have not checked it out, is absolutely amazing. They are just so entertaining and enabling and informative, and it's just an absolute amazing channel. So their link's going to be down below, but I'm sure all of you have already subscribed to their channel. But how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. We're good.
Good. Are you guys ready for some questions?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So we'll get into the first one. The first one is, why did you start a Flosstube, and were there any particular motivations?
We started Flosstube there's a couple of reasons. So Pam had been stitching for 30 years, now more than that, obviously. And I had just started stitching. And so 3 years ago in 2017, Flosstube was just starting to grow a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we have a friend, Nicole Buckeye Stitcher, and she had a channel before we did. And she had encouraged Pam at a retreat, was like, Pam, you should really do it. Like, I think you'd be great. And then I started stitching, and so Pam's wheels started turning, and she was like, I think she was terrified I was going to say no, like, that's not cool. Like, I wouldn't be cut dead doing that with my mom. And then so she said, so, like, do you think maybe you'd want to, like, do a Flosstube? And I was like, absolutely, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so we just did it. And so it was more or less like, you ask a particular motivation, and really it was just to keep track of our stitching, but also as like a memento of our relationship, really.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. And there weren't, at that particular juncture on Flosstube, there really wasn't cat.
Oh, awesome. Cameo appearance. You're like, there really wasn't cat.
But at that particular time, there were no mother-daughter channels on Flosstube. Right. So we were like, well, that's something new and different maybe we could bring to the table. So that's why we did it.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you did.
I can't imagine going forward by myself. I think the interaction is something that people enjoy, and the generational difference as well. Sometimes things will come out of my mouth that I'm like, oh, that's right, you weren't born yet. Okay.
Yeah, I like that we can see the relationship. We can definitely see the mother-daughter relationship in the videos for sure.
For sure,
Definitely.
Right? Yeah. Kind of comes through.
Yeah, and you play off each other really well too. So it's really hard to do a video with just one person and just talking to the camera. It's still awkward for me, for sure.
Yeah,
so.
Props to everybody who does it themselves.
I don't think that I could. I know I would go on for like 6 hours, and nobody would watch because I would just ramble on. So it would be all bad. Yeah.
We enjoy long videos though, so just keep stitching.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next question is a subscriber question, and it's just wondering if you have a blog.
I had a blog probably 5 to 10 years ago. I have not taken it down. So I had gotten lazy with it. I had gotten into other interests and had started a second blog, namely for genealogy, and was more prompted to post there as opposed to my stitching blog. And then when we started our channel, we had an initial thought to put our show notes in that stitching blog. And then after about 2 or 3 attempts at that, we became lazy about that. So it's out there. It's called Crossroads of My Mind. I don't anticipate taking it down. And truthfully, when people ask about older stitching, it's a resource for me to go back and see what I wrote about that stitching many years ago. So it'll hang out there in the blogger verse for as long as it wants to. I don't anticipate taking the time to post there. There's so many hours in the day. So,
right, yeah.
But it has proved to be a place where I can go back and look at things that I stitched years ago and remind myself details and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And now there's Flosstube, so you kind of have that history.
And I don't have a blog, but when we were gonna do the show notes and on our old blog, that at that point we didn't have any idea how, I guess, popular our channel would be at the time, which sounds pretentious to say, but I didn't know
popular.
I didn't know how much of an undertaking being a Flosstuber was going to be. And so now we just take, I take so much pride and care in my description boxes on our videos. And so that's where we put all of the show notes. And so to double up and put it in different places is just too much for us. Right. So.
Well, it's basically like the new blog, basically, is what Instagram and Flosstube are anyway. So.
Right, for sure.
So the next question is, how did you both learn to stitch, and how long have you been stitching?
Well, I started stitching when I was expecting her, and so we're talking 30 plus years. I had sewn mostly apparel for her and her brother and myself for years, so I was familiar with a sewing needle, and had experimented with needlepoint a little bit. So I took it up to stitch a gift for our neighbor, and just fell down the proverbial rabbit hole with it. And truthfully, I was kind of thinking that I would deplete my stash around the time when Stephanie started stitching. And so along she comes and starts going through my charts and proceeds to weed it out pretty well. Like, Mom, this is ugly,
Oh, okay.
Pretty hardcore. Pretty hardcore. Yeah.
Need some updating.
Yeah. And that gave her familiarity, though, with designers and names and styles and so forth and so on. But I've been at it a long time. So I did know, for instance, that Frank Bilek was Mosey and Me.
Yeah.
Whereas
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right. You knew some cases. Yeah. So there is value in having that history a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And when I was a kid, I don't know, like 8, maybe, I think Pam tried to teach me to stitch. We have those little Pine Mountain design pillows that have God bless America that I did when I was 8, but I was little and I got distracted. And then when I was organizing Pam's stash, she was looking for a chart, and I was like, well, don't you have it organized? And she's like, of course not. It's just all in a box. So then I started organizing it for her, and the pile of Stitch for Steph just kept growing. And I'm like, okay, so what if I just stitch these myself? And so that was 3 years ago. And it just exploded from there. And then I started working at Keepsakes in about 8 months after that. And I can't imagine.
I was going to ask you what led into working at Keepsakes. So I was in the restaurant business for a really long time. I was a manager. I worked for Bobby Flay at one point. But as I got older and the hours just were insane, and I was just this is just not a sustainable life. So I got out of the restaurant business and I moved home, and then I just started stitching, and Pam took me to Keepsakes. And it was at that point when social media and Flosstube were really becoming important in the stitching community. And Barbara, the owner of Keepsakes, she
saw me and my young self and was like, hey, would you maybe help run like the social media side of things? And I was like, sure, I can run an Instagram, I can run a Facebook, that's no problem. And so I did that for like maybe 6 months, and then our Flosstubers continued to grow, and our knowledge and connections within the community started growing. So then I came on board full-time at Keepsakes, and have been doing that ever since. So I can't imagine my life any different than it is now. But I'm one of those type of people that gets really devoted to my job. So like when I was in the restaurant business, I was always at the restaurant, always.
Nonstop,
And
yeah.
yeah, and now it's like my whole life is cross-stitch, which is much more enjoyable.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be relaxing, so hopefully it's still relaxing too, even though it's kind of a job too.
Right, for sure. It's a best of both worlds, that's for sure. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So the next question is, what is your favorite project that you've stitched?
Okay, this was kind of tough for me. It's like picking your favorite child.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I bet you do. But there are a couple that have special significance. Obviously, I grew up on the East Coast, and so I have an affinity toward anything coastal and anything to do with the ocean. So when I did the Lavender and Lace Angel of the Sea, I felt a certain way for a couple of reasons. I had kitted it up primarily after my divorce, which was 20 plus years ago, thinking that, you know, I felt a newfound freedom, right? And so I called it my divorce project for a long time. And as it turns out, it took a long time to finish that one, but it's all framed. It hangs in my bedroom, and so that's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Also, given my interest in genealogy, I was able to do the Canada sampler, which is by Stitchrovia, and I was able to have Barbara frame it in the shape of a maple leaf. So that's another one that I'm very, very pleased to have. And again, genealogy, my mother's tree. Again, lavender and lace.
I didn't realize it too.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. So I had a lot of fun charting the names and doing the research and going as far back as I was confident of. And Barbara and I kind of did a little private sale with it. I helped her with her genealogy research. And we put our last stitches in them together at the shop, and then she framed them both. And so that was kind of a fun project, and that hangs very prominently in our home. So
has a lot of meaning, it sounds like, too. That's really neat. I might reach out to you about genealogy research, because I've been thinking about doing it and finding out my family's history. So I might reach out to you.
Okay. Yeah.
And you said this before too, that you like when your two biggest passions collide,
right?
Which is genealogy and cross-stitch, right?
Yeah,
so
that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So my favorite piece, so for anyone who's not familiar, we live in Cincinnati, and we have in the last 3 years something that we are very proud of, and that is our baby Hippo, Fiona. So she was born in the beginning of 2017, which is around the same time I started stitching, and it also was a really big time of transition in my life and making better choices and really just completely revamping my life. And so, as kind of funny as it sounds, I found a lot of connection with that Hippo. Like, everyone was like rallying around her and was like watching her grow and really wanted her to succeed. And that's really how I looked at my own life and the people and support system I had. And so one of the first projects I stitched was Tribal Hippo by White Willow Stitching. And I finished it, I think, like a year after I started stitching, and it's on Ada using a variegated DMC. And when I had it framed, I found a photo of Fiona from the zoo or whatever, and I had it printed, and so it's framed side by side, and the profile of the stitched hippo is the same as the profile of the photo of Fiona.
That's so cool.
And yeah, so they look like the same, so it's really interesting. And then it says like Fiona the hippo, born at the Cincinnati Zoo, February 2017. And so it hangs in our foyer. But
So
I love
cool.
it. It's huge and it's awesome, and I'm super, super proud of it. So
That's really, yeah, I love when pieces have that meaning and the feeling and everything behind it too. That's an amazing story.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thanks.
All right. So the next question is, what do you enjoy most about stitching?
I think it is therapeutic in many ways. I have just found it to be enjoyable, relaxing, therapeutic. We are fortunate here in our area to have a very social stitching community, so it's a shared activity as well. And it's provided a means to meet other stitchers. That's been super fun. We've also, when I started stitching back in the late 80s, there were 5 shops in Greater Cincinnati, believe it or not. There were two across the street from each other. And here we are. Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah, and here we are in 2020, and Keepsakes is the only one still standing or still open. Yeah. So it's had a lot of positive impact on my life. So
yeah, as incredibly cheesy as it sounds, what I think I enjoy the most about stitching is that it's something I get to do with my mom. So I think that I realized how lucky and fortunate I am to have the relationship that I have with my mom. And at 32 years old, and I don't know if it would be as tight as it is if stitching wasn't there. So I know it's helped us through a lot of stuff, but it also is just something that we have together. So
that's a shared passion, a shared love. Yeah,
exactly.
And I like how you guys have started. Is it called Stitch Harmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like how you guys started that too, because I'm lucky in my area that I had started a local group and found some other people. So we've met up, but I know a lot of people don't have anybody that they can stitch with. So that's a pretty amazing. If you guys want to talk about just a little bit, that's kind of a pretty amazing thing.
So was it your idea originally? Probably, because you're the one with the good ideas.
I'm great at coming up with ideas. It's the execution that she has to figure out.
My name's Pam, and I'm a genius.
No. But I think it was just a matter of getting lots of comments from those solo stitchers out in areas where they might be away from a big city, or they might have just moved somewhere, or they just started stitching and just would love to talk to somebody in person.
Or they don't have a needlework shop either.
They don't have a shop.
And without Keepsakes or a needlework shop, like that is a central location for all of us to meet, right? And so I don't know if we would have some of the friends we have now locally if it weren't for meeting at Keepsakes, right? And so we know how much we value our stitching friendships, and obviously the internet and Flosstubers and all that has brought even more wonderful friendships in our life. But it's hard to make friends even as an adult. It's so hard.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's inherently a solo activity.
Right.
So to have that connection, someone came in to Keepsakes when we were sitting and stitching, when we were able to do that, and said, you're like the Tinder of Crossstitch. And
Awesome.
I went, yeah, but I don't think I want to have that association
Yeah.
necessarily.
It's pretty funny though.
Okay, well, let's kind of go with that and play off eHarmony, and that sounds a little less.
Swipe left, if you will.
Yeah, a little less.
Yes.
Sketchy matchmaking.
Right.
And we're thrilled. We realize obviously that in the current situation, personal meetups are not necessarily going to happen, but we're keeping it going, and invariably. Some people are getting used to looking through now, you know, and they're recognizing places, and it's just been super fun.
So if somebody out there is like, I've never heard of Stitch Harmony, so it's every video we do it, and it's a hashtag, so that way we can easily find it in our comment section. But it's anybody who is a solo stitcher out there and wants to connect with another stitcher in their city, town, village, whatever. And then every week we just pick somebody and we share it, and we say, if you live nearby, comment on this video. And then the person who's looking for a friend goes through, reads the comments. And I mean, we've heard of some really great success stories, and it's just been really, really cool. So
yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. I really do. I think a lot of people are gonna love that.
I'm excited to see what happens, like once
they connect or find somebody. Yeah. You should tell them to like come back with like the after story of when they connect with somebody. Like a follow-up.
Right.
So the next question is, what's your favorite genre of book or movie?
Okay.
Is it book or movie?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, book or movie. I wrote down music.
Oh.
Or music. Music works too.
Okay, but we can answer book way easier, so that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm a retired librarian, so books are my life, have been my life for most of my adult life. And so I've always been a reader. Haven't found the kind of time to read until the current situation necessarily. I'm frequently listening while I'm stitching, and because of my educational background, I tend toward historical fiction, but I will read just about everything I probably won't read a whole lot of romance. I'll probably read
I hope I come downstairs and when you read a romance novel, I will die. I will actually die.
No, I'll probably gravitate more to the historical fiction and nonfiction, and also a good mystery or a good horror. I'm there. So
yeah,
nice.
I'm a lot of the same. I was an English major as well in college, and I personally think that real life is way more interesting than something made up. So I like nonfiction. I like historical fiction and nonfiction. And from a movie perspective, I'm a documentary lover.
Oh, wow.
So and I'm super into true crime. So anything, like all of the true crime things, that's what I like. So
very cool. Well, the next question is, what fictional place would you most like to go?
Okay.
I struggled with this until the light bulb went off last night, and Stephanie goes, but Mom, I could see myself living at Downton Abbey for sure.
Living, not working.
Yeah, definitely.
Living.
You guys clarify that. Yeah.
I would probably, if I was time traveled back, I'd end up downstairs. But I would want to be living with those folks. Love the series. I've stitched a piece depicting Downton Abbey, so somewhere if I can find some wall space.
I was going to say, I sent her the picture.
Yeah, I have pictures to insert.
It'll probably be in a PBS wall at some point, because I'm in the middle of doing a cold dark piece, and Downton's been in the under the bed box for a while, but so.
Mine was super easy. I'm a huge Wizard of Oz fan. So if I could go or visit, it would be the Emerald City in the wonderful town of Oz.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that. So I would like to be Dorothy in Oz if we get really specific about it, because I just want to be pampered. That would be lovely.
Well, she did a lot of work in Wizard of Oz too, though.
I mean, it's also true. So, I mean, I'll do the work if I can get to Oz and be pampered.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
We had to go through a process of elimination on this one because I clearly said it can't be any physical activity. Right. So I'm not going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail or pedaling a bicycle across. None of that.
We don't like to go outside, really.
Yeah, or break a sweat.
Right.
Either. So I zeroed in on sitting down with either of my grandmothers and asking them questions about their lives.
Oh, wow. That would be amazing.
In 1906, but at opposite ends of that year. So as they were coming up as teenage girls, you're talking about World War I, you're talking about the Roaring 20s, and I was able to enjoy many wonderful years with them, but I would love to go back and chat with them some more.
That would be amazing. I didn't even think of that when I was like doing the questions. I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mine is a little bit ridiculous, but that should serve no surprise to anyone. I would absolutely love to swim with hippos. I'm assuming they're not going to eat me alive. So I would like
Friendly
to swim with a hippo and then an otter, because I love them both equally, and then followed quickly by a sunset hot air balloon ride.
That sounds like the perfect day to me.
A hot air balloon ride is like at the top of my bucket list. So that's what I would do.
Nice. Is there any place locally that does hot air balloon rides? I know when we lived in Michigan, they used to do them.
I think there is. We've certainly seen them in our area. And her brother and sister-in-law currently live in Albuquerque, which of course has one of the bigger fiestas out there. Mm-hmm. So if we were ever to visit them, I'm sure that could be arranged.
Yep, then you get that off your bucket list.
Yeah, right. And then my best friend Kia, where she lives in just south of Indianapolis, there's a place there that does hot air balloon rides, and she's been wanting to take me, but it's been closed. So so I know that is an option, but I'm sure there's something here in Cincinnati too. There's got to be.
Well, hopefully we'll be hearing about that at some point when things start opening up. You get a hot air balloon ride.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you have any other hobbies besides cross stitch?
From a crafting perspective, no. No. we have so much stash. I mean, I kind of skirt the question by saying that I think we both are firm believers in that there's two separate hobbies. There's the stitching of the things, and then there's the collecting of the things.
Yep, I agree.
Yes. So we are equal opportunity stitchers in that regard. So, but as to like other, cool Pam, when not turning your ringtone on. But we don't like quilts. We don't scrapbook. We don't.
Well, we like quilts. We just don't want a quilt.
Right. And I know that we would get so into it that we would need another wing on the house.
True. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way with other crafts. I just got my first diamond painting kit, and that's already But exactly. Stitching takes up so much time, and there's so much stash that trying to have another hobby is, I don't know.
I know. I'm like, where would we put that though?
Exactly. Yes. All right. So the next question would be, how would your friends describe you both?
I think that most people would find me to be funny, although I don't think I'm that funny.
You're super funny.
I hope people would think of me as being kind, and probably with some of the challenges I faced. I am a cancer survivor. I have been through a kind of a kooky divorce and other things. I think they probably attributes some courage to me. It's
Perseverance.
not anything that I necessarily, I'm not preoccupied with it, but that's probably what they say.
She's also the worst at taking compliments. Like,
I am.
literally the worst.
Yeah. When people send us things, because we make a floss tube, I am the world's worst receiver
Ever.
I don't understand the motivation.
Because they like you, Pam.
But we make a point of acknowledging gifts and cards because I can't get out of my head that somebody said, I should send this to Pam and Steph, or I should send this to Pam. And that involved going to a store and picking something out and wrapping it and taking it to the post office and
paying to send it.
And paying the postage to send it to me. And so we will always take the time in our videos to acknowledge, because I cannot get over this community and the generosity of folks. I can't get my head around it.
You scrolled completely off.
I'm right there with you, because I'm still fairly new. I haven't even hit a year yet, and like I'll get messages or emails and they'll ask for my address because they want to send me something, and I don't know how to respond to that, because I'm, it's like, what? And then you don't know how to say, like, oh sure, or oh, you don't have to do that, because I think I'm in the same boat as you, where I just can't understand, I'm doing this for me and to meet other people. And, I think I'm right there with you. It's just, I cannot believe that, people want to send me something because I'm, doing a recording.
Make a video.
Kind of yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that people would, to get back to your original question, I think that people would describe me as funny as well. I've always just been snarky, and that's how I am. And I think also giving, like I'm always happy when like the people around me are happy, and sometimes to a fault I'm giving. And also I've been through a lot in 32 years, and so I think people would describe me as strong as well. So
I would agree with that.
Well, thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
So, how do you both prefer to stitch? Hoop, Q-snap, light, that kind of stuff.
Lots of people have asked to see our stitchy spot, and my stitchy spot involves a lap desk. It doesn't have any kind of cushion to it. It's just a very thin, kidney-shaped handle on both ends, flat surface. It was given to me by a stitcher friend many years ago. It balances on my legs or the arms of my recliner. I do use a magnifier on my glasses. I think it's 2.5. I haven't been able to manage a combination light and magnifier from a recliner standpoint. I could probably use one if I'm at a retreat at a table, but whereas I usually sit in my recliner with my feet up, the clip-ons work the best. And I have been using Q-snap since they were invented. The only time I wouldn't use a Q-snap would be if I were working on an ornament the fabric was so small, it literally would not be big enough to wrap around the piping of a Q-snap.
Okay.
And we have some hoops and so forth, because we both, me first and handed on to her, that it needs to be drum tight. I have never understood how people stitch in hand. I'm not interested in learning.
I've tried and I just can't.
And
can't.
so
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, if that's the kind of stitching that you find enjoyable,
Have at it.
have at it.
Yeah.
The idea of fabric flopping over my hands makes my skin crawl. So
Wow. Tells me you really feel about that, man.
so anyway.
And then what's your preferred fabric?
Oh, my happy place in terms of fabric is 32 count and either linen or Lugana. I steer away from 36 because of the fact that sometimes one strand is too little, 2 strands is too much. I'm a coverage nut, so I would be prone to using 2 strands, but 32 is my happy place. I stitched for years on 28, and I think because of things I've stitched over the years, it's just been natural to move to 32, and that's pretty much where I stay.
Yeah. So for me, I also use a Q-snap. My favorite size is 8x8, but
Mine too.
I'll use whatever. Yeah, I don't really enjoy an 11x11. It's just really heavy to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I like either 8x8 or 6x6. I am luckily to the point where I don't need magnifiers. So yay for that. And however, I do need, I have an OttLite that it kind of sits on a side table next to my stitchy spot, and then the light is turned to shine on the fabric.
Okay.
The way that Pam has her light set up, it's kind of like right here almost. So I have tried that, and hers is a floor lamp, so it's a little bit taller than that. And if I have that light in my eyes for even an hour, I start getting a headache. So I need that light to I need the light to stitch, but I need it to not
point away from your eyes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if I don't have that light, then I can't stitch. It's weird. But I have it's called a glider, right? Not a chaise lounge. I always call it the wrong thing. And so I actually stitch not with my feet up, which I probably should stitch with my feet up more often, whatever. But that's just how I like it. And so I sit in a chair just like this, and on the ottoman part of the glider, I use that kind of as almost like a painter's palette. So I have all my threads out all over it, and then needles with all the threads in it, because I don't like rethreading needles. So I just have all the colors out in a row, and so I use that. I am interested in trying a scroll frame, but I know that that's kind of a big investment. But I want to try one just to see if I like it for some of the larger projects. And my preferred fabric, now if you had interviewed us last year, my answer would have been different. But
changing tastes.
Yes. As of today, my absolute favorite fabric is 40 count linen.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy for me to say. But I started on a piece of Weeks, and that would be my recommendation for anybody who's I'm scared, but I want to try it. Try a 40 count Weeks first. And then, because Weeks is a little bit of a looser weave, and then it will kind of ease you into the baby holes. And now I can't get enough of it. I love it so much.
Also,
40 count without magnifiers.
Yeah. And I also, Pam just said to me that I also railroad all my stitches. So when you say, how do you prefer to stitch? I railroad every stitch every time, every leg of every stitch. When I stitch on 40 count or 36 count, I use 1 strand, so there's no railroading needed. But when it's on 32, I railroad all the time. So
I railroad too, but I usually stick to 8. I'm an 8 stitcher, so I do 18 count, but I do 1 strand. But I still find that I have to go back, and even though it's 1 strand, I still find that I have to smooth it out because it still looks bumpy for some reason. So almost railroading.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
It is. You're I thought I didn't have to worry about this.
Right?
But,
right?
Yeah.
So what is your favorite place that you've traveled, or where was your favorite place that you've traveled? And did you bring stitching along with you when you went?
Okay, so again, if you'd asked us last year, our options would have been, or our ideas would have been much different. But we've been able to travel beyond anything we could have imagined in the last year. Stephanie can talk about that. But probably I would, again, return to Canada, and particularly Eastern Coast Canada, the Maritimes. I feel like that's my ancestral home. So I would enjoy any minute I could spend in Canada ever.
Very true. So for me, even like a year ago or 3 years ago or 5 years ago, I never would have imagined that I would ever go to Europe. And so last December, we went on a European extravaganza tour to the Netherlands and Belgium and Germany. And my favorite place that we went over there was Belgium. And just we spent a day there in Bruges, and where we rode around on the canal ferry things, that was cool. And I ate a Belgian waffle that was hot
in Belgium.
That was from like one of those like streetcar places. So it was in December, so it was like so good, and it had melted Belgian chocolate on it, and it even had a little Belgian flag stuck in it. I was like, I've never felt more cool in my entire life. And so it was an amazing trip. And I have German roots in on my dad's side of the family. And so when we went to Germany, that was just so cool. Like, I felt really connected to that. So so that was probably the best place that I've ever visited. And well, you brought stitching to Canada. Did you bring stitching to Canada?
I don't think so.
I brought stitching to Europe. I brought way more stitching than I thought that I was going to need. I had all these grand plans of like stitching on the plane and like stitching here. No. So we are going to go return to Europe next September. And we're going to Italy and the Netherlands. And I am not going to bring probably a quarter of the stitching. I would stitch at night, like before we go to bed, but that was it. The rest of the day was super busy. So
you're super busy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those trips sound amazing.
Yes. They were so cool. Very cool.
All right. So what can you not do without for your stitching? Like your favorite go-to?
Okay. Definitely some kind of magnification. Either tabletop or something that clamps onto my Q-snap, or I put over my glasses. So some kind of magnification. And I do need one of those very basic low rand silver needle minders.
One of these.
I mean, not needle threaders.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I use. Yeah.
I'm a thread licker, so
I mean, I could. I'm not a thread licker, and I could sit there and try to get the thread through the hole for, 10 minutes and throw everything in the air. So that keeps me going.
I'm going to do that on April 1st next year. I'm going to take all your needle threaders. I'll let you know how that goes. So for me, aside from the basics like needle and things, I can't stitch out a Q-snap like we said, but from a gadget perspective, a snag nabbit is like I am obsessive about my stitches laying just so. And so I don't snag nabbit like every stitch, but I found that it's really made me feel better about my stitches as a whole, and got them to look exactly how I need them or want them to look.
And you did a video on that, right? Because I think somebody mentioned that. I haven't used one, so I might go check it out. But I know I think you did a video on it.
Yeah, so I was doing a Stay Home with Steph series.
Yep.
And then the last 4 episodes of the Stay Home with Steph series that I've done were like my favorite cross-stitch tools. And so I go through A to Z, all the things that I use. And so this is what a snag nabbit looks like. So it's got this like serrated edge on it.
Okay.
And then this edge is super pointy. So you poke it down in through the fabric, and then it catches all the loose fibers on the serrated edge, and then pulls them through and kind of twists it so they lay better. So, yeah.
Nice. I'm going to have to go
It's
check out
amazing.
those. I think I missed those. I remember seeing you posting all that, but I don't think I watched those gadget ones. I want to see that.
Yes.
Probably
And
more enabling right there.
And it's and they're not expensive. I think that like you can either buy one made by Dritz, and that's like I think $3.50, and then Clover actually makes a dual one,
Mhm.
and it has a regular size one, and then a skinnier, thinner one for higher count fabric.
For higher counts, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, next question is, how do you both decide on what you're going to work on next?
Given that we both have a good amount of whips, we've resorted to an app on our phones.
You have.
I have. And we have Android phones. So on the Android, it's called Decision Roulette. And I can't remember what the iPhone equivalent is.
Tiny Decisions.
Tiny
Yeah, I think it's
Decisions.
Tiny Decisions is what I have, yeah.
And I probably have 4 or 5 wheels under different categories, just to, again, it's a motivational tool, just to keep you moving, just to keep the creative juices flowing, to provide variety in your stitching, so that if I get burned out on something, I can not necessarily do a rotation, which used to be the in thing to do back several years ago, but just to kind of steer you in a different direction maybe, and keep you motivated.
Yeah. I stitch what I want when I want. I don't.
That's a common answer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I try. That's the most honest way to put it. I've tried a rotation before. Back when I had like 7 whips, which is hilarious, and I've tried a wheel before, but I'm also one of those people, like, I don't like to be told what to do. And when I'm told what to do, I want to do the opposite of what I'm being told to do.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't like having a pressure situation. The most I can handle is like the ornament a month that we're doing. But other than that, so what I have found in probably the last 6 months, I'd say, is that if I'm going to take the time and energy to get a project out and put it on the Q-snap and lay out the threads and thread the needles and set it all up and stitch and stitch and stitch, I want to see significant progress or finish it.
Yeah.
And when I first started stitching, I would start something and I'd stitch on it for like 2 days, and I'd be like, but I want to start this, and I want to start this, I want to start this. And that's how my whip pile grew, and then Mania and whatever. But now it's like, this has been sitting for so long, let me just sit down and finish it. So, some of those old standing whips I have brought to the front of the pile because I want them to be done. And we're doing, we've talked about it in our videos a little bit, but we have a stitching group, and one of the girls in our stitching group has challenged us to not have any new starts until October.
Oh, wow.
We've got a couple allowances here and there, but and there's like a monetary reward at the end, which is really cool. So that's like the only reason I'm doing it. I don't think if I had that motivation that I would have lasted this long. But that has helped me so much because of my love for 40 count now. I'm like, I just want to start all the things on 40 count. But then if I did that, then all my projects on 32 and 28 would just sit there.
Right.
Sit there. So I'm trying to, between now and October, to get a lot of those old ones done because I don't want them to sit forever. So, because once October hits, it's
going to be on. It's going to be Mania in October.
Yes. Yeah, it's good.
Are
I'm
you
excited.
are you either of you part of any of those Facebook groups where you count your stitches or you do the tasks or anything? No, yeah, I'm not either. I'm like, I'm with you. I tried the whip wheel for Mania,
Yeah,
and I think I lasted a couple of days, and then I'm like, no, I don't
yeah,
want to do that one next. No, I don't.
right.
It's like,
Exactly.
Now, I will say too, just quickly, that I am doing the Whip Go card.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
Jesse Marie started, and
Oh, okay.
that's been,
Yeah.
and that's because it's based on whips, so it's motivated me to clean up my whips a little bit. But in terms of the tasks and
The counting
the
the stitches
counting,
thing,
it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
Never
I
gonna
can't do that either.
I'm so I mean, I have OCD tendencies so much that when I'm stitching, I already count a row of stitches 3 or 4 times before I actually put them in, just to make
Right.
sure they're correct. So if I had to count my stitches, I'd spend just as much time doing that as I am stitching, and that's hours I can't get back.
Yeah, I'm
So,
right there with you.
yeah. But if it motivates you, hallelujah for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
There is no stitching police, and everybody can do whatever they want that
Exactly.
they enjoy it.
Right.
All right, so we are at the last question. That's my favorite one.
Okay.
It is, what is the best thing that has happened to you both so far this year?
Well, you picked a
Banner year.
to ask that question, right?
I did it for a reason, though.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
Yeah.
So it's just the two of us here, and we do like to eat. And so when it got to acquiring provisions, let's say, we've explored a lot of delivery services and had fun doing so. But in terms of just something that may continue beyond 2020 is I joined a wine club. And in fact, I took delivery today.
Yeah.
I'm not a wine snob. I'm not a wine aficionado. And it's just me. It's not anything we share as an activity at all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because I can go because she hasn't left the house really hardly ever.
Right.
So, since probably March. And so when I can go to the store and she can give me a list of stuff and I can pick it up easy, no problem. But I don't drink. And so if she would be like, pick me up a red, I'd be like,
yeah,
I don't know.
No idea. Yeah.
And so I think that, the wine club has just been like a box of happy that shows up that's just like been really fun, and it's cool to see her like just really enjoy it. So
we've done meat clubs, and we've done seafood clubs, and we've done produce. Yeah. And
it's been really cool to
besides the wine club, I think we'll maybe keep going with a couple of those others.
Yeah.
So that's been good to have a reason to try something, but then realize that it really is a good way to go.
Yeah. And we're also like habitual eat outers. I mean, we get takeout way too much. And because it is just the two of us here. So cooking for two is just sometimes just a super pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And so being able to have those food deliveries and then cooking for the two of us, like, has been something we've done more cooking in the home for the two of us than we have ever done before, which is really cool.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, the best thing that's happened to me this year has been, so because I work for Keepsakes, I go to Nashville Needlework Market. So I went there in March, and I was able to meet in person for the first time Liz Matthews.
So cool.
Yeah, and my friend Kia, she was there as press as well. And she also met Liz Matthews. And I was trying to think about this in the last couple of days, like how that even started. But the three of us, me, Kia and Liz have a video chat group on Instagram where we send video messages back and forth all day. We're absolutely ridiculous. And if it weren't for this current quarantine, really, I don't think our friendship would have blossomed and accelerated at the rate that it has. And so, like every Thursday, we would have a Zoom stitch together. And it's just really cool to like, have those incredible women in my life that are in, my age, but also like, I wear a lot of hats in the industry, right? So like I work for a needle workshop. I'm a Flosstuber. I'm a stitcher. I do a lot of things. And that is kind of a shared thing between all three of us. So, they both own businesses, and like, so we're able to come to the table and talk a lot about industry stuff and talk shop, but also talk like, did you see this month's color and cotton fabric of the month? Like, so it's been an absolute treasure in my life to have the friendship of the two of them that has blossomed in the last 3 months. Like, I can't even believe that Liz and I weren't this close 6 months ago. It's crazy to me. So,
well, I say this a lot. That's amazing. Is because of quarantine, I think people have discovered new ways to communicate and reach out and get closer. Like, with me with the Zooms, I host a Zoom group, and I've made friends from all over the world that I never would have had we not been, quarantined, stuck at home. So
absolutely,
that's amazing that you guys have got close and you have your own, group that you can reach out to and talk to. So
for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So that's all the questions. I just noticed really quick that you guys have matching shirts, and it says I make Flosstube. Okay, I make Flosstube videos because there you go. I've been looking like the whole interview at the shirts. I love them. Those
it says I make Flosstube videos, and then it says it's a cross-stitch thing down at the bottom.
That's so cool. Got me one for Mother's Day this year, and then of course I had to have a matching one. So
I love those.
So that was fun. Yeah.
So can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So what has been your favorite part about doing these interviews?
So for doing these,
I can't imagine how fun it would be. Like, it would just be so fun to talk to people.
It's a blast. And I was really nervous at first. And I've told everybody this was kind of Daleen, so grateful. This was her idea that she brought to me. And she's like, you should do this, because it's just something that she thought would be kind of nice for the community. And my whole goal for this, I think, is one, to meet other Flosstubers, because we're never going to probably meet in person unless we get to, a retreat or something. Right. But the other thing is, I'm trying to find some of the newer Flosstubers that don't have like a whole lot of subscribers. Some I interviewed from Australia and from UK to bring them more people as well, and kind of just expose all different types of stitchers, if that makes sense. So
for sure.
It's been amazing. It's a lot of work. It is, it's time consuming. I've switched down my Flosstube. My weekly Flosstubes are now every 2 weeks, so that I could kind of do the interviews instead of. So, I've changed things up, but it's so worth it. It really is. And it's brought me friendships myself, which is pretty amazing that I've kept in touch with people that I've interviewed. So
it's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Great. It's a great thing that you're doing.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
Well, I was super, I was telling Steph, I was like super stoked when you guys said yes. So a lot of people wanted me to interview you guys because I had asked in one of my videos, and there were a ton of people that, had said, we want to know more about Pam and stuff. So I was like, I'll try.
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, we hope we answered any questions. And we are, like yesterday, even at work, I had to call somebody about a chart they'd ordered, and they're like, is this really, is this Steph?
Right?
And I'm like, I think. And somebody said the other day, when I talk to you, it's like talking to the queen. And I'm like, no. Like, I am a normal person. Like, and so my inbox, Pam's inbox, is always open. If anyone has any questions or wants to know anything about us, we're an open book.
Yeah, I don't think you guys realize how big of celebrities you are, like, in our community, though, really, because a lot of people look up to you and a lot of people refer to you, you know, when they're talking, and you know, so we have celebrities in our community. We, you know, it's just like movie stars, but in our stitching community, there are celebrities. Yeah, that's just how it is.
And it's, when people say stuff like that, it's an honor to and a privilege to be in that position. You know, if you had told us when we started Just Keep Stitching that someone would be telling us this, it's like I would have said you were absolutely insane. But we love it. We wouldn't have it any other way. And the things that we get from the community are tenfold what people say they get from us. You know, if people weren't watching our videos, we would just be two broads talking to each other.
And stitching.
Right, and stitching. It's a great community that we are proud to be a part of. For sure.
Well, we appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your day to chat with me. I think a lot of people are gonna love this, you know, this chat basically is what we did. So
I hope so.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I really do. And we'll just say bye to everybody on Flosstubers.
Bye. Yeah.